Hey, it's Dell Jackson. Press break. January 31st, snowing like a son of a gun outside. And, we have a special guest tonight. Our original plans for Andy and I was to get some of the coaches that we covered during the week. And this week, it worked out perfect. We have Coach Nate Musselman from Garden Spot. And Andy's going to be on here with us as well. So we'll start with you, Coach. How you doing, buddy?
Doing very good. Like you said, just got done shoveling, so I just came inside.
You're a good man. I always wait till the next day, so I might be breaking my back. Who knows? We got Andy. How you doing, Andy?
All good. Just finishing up another week of hoops and talking about it like we always do on a Sunday night to recap. And as an added bonus, it's always good when our guest is one of the coaches here who I'd like to consider a friend. So all good here in my world tonight.
All right. Okay. Well, usually I talk a little bit, but I'm going to pass the baton to Andy and Coach Musselman. Andy was at the game with Cacalico and Garden Spot, I think pulled off, and maybe Coach will disagree with this, but I would say the biggest upset so far in this year. So I know Garden Spot, they had some issues in the beginning of the year, and they still do with the gym floor, but we'll talk about that, and I think it's solved. But, kind of a rough start, but really great recovery. So I will throw it over to Coach Musselman and Andy to talk about the game and where you're at right now, Coach.
I'll lead you in, Coach. First, as always, for coming on with us and chit-chatting a little bit. It's kind of interesting how you guys won at Cacalico in the sense that I think before Thursday night, you can make an argument that Garden Spot was the one team out of everybody, out of the 27 teams we have or whatever it is in the league, that you guys were probably the biggest mystery in the sense that, as I wrote in the recap, like you played 2 games, then you were absent for a week or so before you played your next game. And you didn't really have any like, wow, oh my gosh, look at what Garden Spot did before Thursday night. And right, wrong, or indifferent, your guys' claim to fame might have been being the team that Warwick beat by about 20 points when they missed 97 free throws. You guys were just kind of a mystery, but I think you turned a lot of heads on Thursday at Cacalico. So I almost kind of feel bad asking you this very generic and open-ended question, but tell us who your team is and your pieces and, what you hope that Thursday night can do and the springboard off of that. Because you guys have won 3 in a row now. So it's not like Thursday night was totally unheard of in terms of actually, winning a game. So I'll hand it over to you, big guy.
Yeah. Boy, I think we're still figuring that out, Andy, to be honest with you. It's all an excuse, but it is real. My kids, after last March, that was it. And then our school had a rule through the summer that if you were going to play a fall sport, you were not allowed to play it for a secondary sport through the summer. And that was the majority of my kids between soccer and football. So, the Garden Spot basketball team didn't play together until November 18th, and that's a very, very long time to not be on the court together at all. Is it an excuse? Yeah, it is, because I'm sure other teams went through it as well. But for us, it was real. And, we always kind of get through December every year and kind of figure out who we are. And then we roll into January, sometimes, correcting the mistakes and playing better basketball. And this year, it's like I said to you when we were talking after the game, it's like it's 30 days late now. Here we are beginning of February. The month of January was kind of the month where we were figuring everything out. And, have we figured it out yet? No. But when we can finally start to eliminate some turnovers and get out of the high teens and mid 20s, because now guys are just getting more comfortable on the floor with each other, just being on a basketball floor in general. They're always a group, though, that's going to work hard on the defensive end. So when they can limit their mistakes offensively, they're going to be in games. Even that Warwick game you mentioned before, we controlled that game up until halftime. You know what I mean? And we were going to foul them and play them hard. That was our mantra going into that game. Yeah, they missed a lot, but we also didn't shoot the ball very well. Same thing as Twin Valley. We were 16 of 60 from the floor against Twin Valley. I mean, that's just, I don't know what to say about that. You kind of just shake your head. But, when you don't shoot very well or that abysmal, you're constantly back on the defensive end. and you're just, you're working so hard. And we talked about that after the game as well, about, we work so hard on the defensive end. It's just such a shame when we just give it back on the offensive end and not even get a shot up. And, in that Cacalico game, we took care of the ball better and had better possessions. And, it worked out well for us. It was a great game. They're a great team. They got a great player. But again, with the way we play defense, we're going to be around in a game if we just take care of the ball offensively. And we're just starting to have our seniors starting to figure it out. Some of our sophomores are coming along. And, I don't know that answers the questions of where we're at yet, but that's where we're headed, at least, to limit offensive mistakes and still dig in tough on the defensive end.
Let's go back to Thursday night specifically.
Yeah, sure.
I said it was a very weird game, and it really was, just as I remember seeing it visually right after, and then even as I'm going through my notes writing the story. I mean, the runs between you and Cacalico were insane. I don't know if we'll ever see a game like that where it's 12-0, 14-2, 8-1, 8-1. Like, nobody ever traded baskets back and forth. It was just way up and down as far as peaks and valleys for both of you guys. I mean, have you, I guess, two-part question, is that, again, part and parcel with not having a lot of time together and you're just naturally going to kind of walk into games like that where you don't have that much consistency with one another? And two, have you ever just been involved in a game period that's been that erratic where, the punches are just knockouts back and forth? It's not even like subtle body jabs. It's just haymaker after haymaker between one another.
I mean, to answer the first part of your question, I think that's our goal, Andy. It's to be more consistent. You know what I mean? I think we spoke about that after the game too. Can we just be more, more consistent and try to avoid those, valleys and peaks, and maybe just kind of stay in the middle. But playing Cacalico, Seth and I talk for every game. And it's like, all right, see you in overtime. It's going to be body blows back and forth, and first to 35. I mean, we always joke about that, but the two teams, just the kids know each other. They love competing against each other, and it is just it's fun to be on the sideline. Yeah, we came on the winning side this side, but like it was 2 years ago, they beat us at our place in like 3 overtimes, and I walked to Steph after. I said, listen, somebody had to lose, but it was just a great game to be part of. So that's kind of the MO when Cacalico plays guard spot. So
yeah. Coach, do you have anything for Mr. Muss?
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't at the game, so maybe tell our people and tell me what are your thoughts going into an overtime game on Cacalico's floor at that point? I mean, what are you telling your kids? What are you thinking? I know coaches think ahead. It's like, what do we do? Do we do lay, or who do we foul and all that stuff? But what is your focus right there at that time? Overtime, Cacalico.
Well, what's going on in my head, I'll never tell my kids because I can't say it out loud. But we're just telling our kids, listen, it's another 4 minutes of basketball. We're going to keep playing on the defensive end, and that's where we're going to win the game, on the defensive end. Now we opened up that overtime here, and Jesse hit a 3. So that was a big cushion for us. But I think Carter came right down and hit a 3 back. So we're trying to dig in defensively. And no, we're not going into stall ball or anything like that. We're just trying to get solid, possessions. And with John Dykey and Brendan and Jesse himself being a little bigger guys, we're trying to get possessions near the rim.
Okay, all right. It's always interesting to get a coach's view going into that overtime. It's like, okay, now what are we going to do? Or this play's working, or basically you're sticking to your guns and
yes,
kind of playing it by ear. Okay, let's go back. Andy and you and I were chatting a little bit about some of the problems that you guys experienced with the COVID issues with your gym floor. Go ahead and just speak to that. Like, just take us from maybe November to where we're at now. It's how you have adjusted, what school policies have been in place, and talk about the gym floor a little bit. We're kind of excited to see this game coming up.
Yeah, I can tell you what, I always talk about talk about the gym floor a second. The COVID thing, again, I was speaking to Andy off air before we started. Our kids had some things cut short for them in the fall, whether it was football and soccer, and they came to us and said, hey, what if we went remote through the basketball season? And it's not that we encourage that, because we want our kids in school, obviously, but the boys made a decision that they were going to try to do that and make that sacrifice so they could have their basketball season. So I think it's 21 out of 23, or it's a very high number of my basketball players are all remote all the time. So yeah, it took a little bit then for our school to make a policy that said, hey, even if we shift from in learning to remote learning, it's not going to affect our extracurricular activities because, number one, our basketball team's remote anyway. So it's no different than what they're doing, now, because they're not in school now anyway. So that side of it, I joked with Andy. I said, we're the healthiest team in the county. My kids have been, remote learning for 50 days now, so they're not around anybody. So we're okay with going into schools and playing, even if our school does decide to go remote. So I hope that continues for our boys because they are making that sacrifice. They would all rather be in school, but they're not right now. And then, with the gym floor, January 8th was the day we were supposed to be in, and we got a snowstorm. And unfortunately, on that snowstorm over Christmas time, I guess there was a roof leak, and the roof leaked onto our brand new floor. And, since it was break, I guess the water kind of stood a couple of days, and, water and wood just don't mix when it sits. So, they had to get that all figured out. One thing led to another. They got the floor kind of, playable now, and ready to go. It will be resanded and repainted this summer to make it 100% for next year. But for these seniors, I'm glad the school decided to make it where we can get on it and play. And it's really, really nice. The lighting in there is different. It's all brand new. The floor is brand new. When you dribble a ball out now, you can feel it in your feet. It is the way it's supposed to be. We got 2 brand new rims on our main court, so we don't have those stiff rims anymore. We're really excited. We turned that gym into a shooter's gym, into a basketball gym, and we're anxious to get our first game in there. And because of the size of that gym, the great thing is now away teams can bring in parents. We can have parents. So it's going to accommodate a lot of things.
Yeah, let me follow up on that. So again, a lot of people don't know unless they're part of the schools. So you guys had to play in a smaller gym, no fans, some fans, or I know we couldn't get in there to cover a game, and that's okay. We got to do what we got to do and be safe. So how did that work out?
Yeah, well, actually, my games mostly were all away, so I wasn't really in that gym very much. But we did have 2 games in there. I played Manheim Central in there, and then we just played Solanco in there. And that'll be it. From now on, the rest of the games will be in the big gym. But we were still able just to have some home fans, parents. When we were home into that gym. Again, our school, was able to do that, figure out the number of people in there for us. So again, it was very empty, but that gym's so small anyway. It's just the teams in there make it loud. Mm-hmm. But yeah, so that's all water under the bridge now. We're going to be in the new gym enjoying that, and we still have the locker room thing to deal with. That's still not ready to go. So the away teams will have to figure out what we're going to do for half times and things like that. But again, that's going to be minor in a long scheme. This will all get done. It's going to be really, really neat once this whole gym and the locker rooms are done.
How about practice? Did you have the junior high in there? Did you guys have to shift practice times?
Yeah, practice was really tough without our main gym. Our junior high programs can only practice half court. My 7th, 8th, and 9th grade are all in the middle school gym all at the same time. And they're doing their best. You know what I mean? But that was the majority of our basketball season so far. And we were always stuck in one of the small gyms, at nighttime. So now, again, with the availability of the new floor, we all can kind of spread out now. We're able to also go practice with our junior high programs because we like to be involved with it that way. So it's going to get turned around here. It's just, the word of the year is being flexible, and that's what we're being flexible. Our kids are, and just, all you can do is control your attitude and your work ethic, and that our kids have done a good job of that so far, despite what facility part that we're in.
Nice. All right, Andy, I'll turn it back over to you, buddy.
Speaking of the gym, the bleachers are still where they always were, right? We're still going to need binoculars, correct?
Yeah, the referees love that. We're not moving them up.
I love it. Hey, I was looking at your guys' schedule today from here on out, except with what's going on outside, obviously wreaking havoc into things too. But you guys are very backloaded. Like, you got game practice. Like, it's all games, really. It's not really game practice game. Like, you don't have that sort of natural structure you used to, just based on everything. So what I'm wondering is, I know this worked for Cacalico, I think in Lesko's senior year, where like they had a boatload of games, but snow wreaked havoc on them, but they were playing game after game after game after game, and it worked out well for them in the sense that they didn't really get in their own way, right? They were just playing ball in its natural sense. So for the group you have this year, is that going to be? I know it's a hodgepodge of both. I understand it, but do you think that's going to be more good or more negative in the sense that it's just game after game after game, and the practice time is not there as much as it usually is?
It better be good because I have no choice. But I can see it where, again, you kind of get rolling, and if you can get a rhythm going to your team, you do got to watch minutes, game after game after game. You do got to watch that because these kids just, they play so hard, and they even these 16 and 18-year-olds get tired. But no, I mean, we don't have a choice, Andy. So it's going to be more weather's coming. If you look in the 10-day, I think it's more snow out there. So I think we're 12 games in 20 days or something like that is what we're currently at. So, you know what I mean? It's going to have to be a positive experience for us. It's going, now I do carry like 13 kids in my book. So, there's going to be available minutes, here and there through these games to help our guys who play. Joe Sharp played 37 to 38 minutes Thursday night, so, Carter does too, though. You know what I mean? So it's just expected of these seniors. And I think, if I ask Joe or if you ask Carter, I'm sure he doesn't ever want to come off the floor. Right. So yeah, we're going to spin it positively and just attack it that way. That's what we'll do, man.
Yeah. Hey, Coach, let's look ahead a little bit. I mean, today was the first day I looked at. I know as a coach, people are always looking at the district ratings. So tell us a little bit about what classification you're in, where you're at, and your goals for the year as far as District 3 play goes.
We are 5A. I have no clue where we're at because I'm not worried. A game past Manheim Central on Tuesday night.
Good answer.
I'm just not. I am just not. And I know that's cliche, but I couldn't tell you. I have no idea. So I don't know. We need to take care of, I would have said practice tomorrow, but I don't think that's happening because school's already closed. But if we can maybe get a shoot around before the game or something Tuesday, but that's our focus. Our first quarter, Tuesday night over in Manheim. That's it. And that's got to be our message to our kids as well. It can't be. Of course, we want to make district playoffs. Of course we do. I would be lying to you to tell you that we didn't. But none of that matters unless we figure out a way to win over there in Manheim. It's been a little bit since we won over there, so it's gonna be a really big challenge for us.
Hey, Andy. If I didn't know any better, if I didn't know the speaker here, I would say that was Major League Coach BS. But I know better. I know it's not. I know that is a true and honest answer. Okay, let me switch gears on you because this one you will have to answer.
I'm in.
So we just got news today from the LL that they want to do the tournament. And they want to do section champs only. So what's your thoughts on that? I know it's a weird year and I know it's like, well, I don't know if I'm going to be participating, but you've got an overall view of the league and how do you think that's going to work out? It's going to be what we've heard, and it's not official yet, but what we've heard is there's going to be a play-in game between two of the section champs, probably the lower section champs on the first night, Tuesday. And then Thursday, they'll have the semifinals. And then Friday, they want to go to Township to do the Township game. And the reason we're interested in it is because we're going to try to live stream a lot of those games if we can.
I'm extremely happy that they're doing an LL playoff. If the timing was there, of course I would push for our normal, top two make. Of course I would. That's obviously what I want to see happen. But again, that word flexibility keeps coming back, and if this is what we got to do to make so the kids can benefit, then that's what it has to be. If you asked me if I had a vote, I would have voted top two teams all day long. That's what I would have voted. Figure the schedule out around that. But if that coincides with and disrupts districts and things like that, then I certainly understand because our season's getting pushed around already. But my honest opinion would have been top two go because I love the LL tournament. I love it. I love watching it. I love being in it. I really enjoy our tournament. I really do. So that would be my answer for that.
All right. That's a good answer. I got one other one for you. next year, I believe it's next year, maybe it's 2 years from now, the LL is proposing to go to 4 sections. Where would
Yes.
you guys fit into the 4? I think that's a done deal.
Yeah, we're section 2.
Okay.
Yep. So I think we'll be in section 2, and there's no crossover. So yeah, bring it on. Put us in section 2. Let's go. That sounds fun to me. And you know, we'll have to find some different games because I'm used to going to Christmas and hanging out with Chris and those guys at Warwick. I have to find something else to do now because they're going to be in our section. So I'll see them twice a year anyways now. So you know, maybe we'll have our own Christmas tournament or something with the girls team or something. I don't know, but we'll have to figure something out.
Yeah. All good there. I mean, we do a little bit of the LL history here, and we've gone from 2 sections to 3 sections to 4 sections to 5 sections. Now we're going back to 4, and maybe down the road we'll go to 3. Who knows? You know, who knows how it's going to go. All right, Andy, what do you got for Coach? Anything else?
Yeah, I do want to kind of touch on something, a segue off of what you just asked about league playoffs and sections and things like that.
Okay.
Coach, I know after the game you were saying if you guys can, you know, steady the ship and really be consistent, you like your chances to be a major player. And based on what I saw, I don't have any reason to really disagree with you. So again, for those that haven't seen you guys play, no better person to ask than the coach himself. I mean, why do you think you guys have the ability to be a major player in section 3? Because again, you guys are extremely backloaded. You don't have a lot of meat on your collective bone as far as who you've played in sections so far. You got a lot of road ahead of you. So if you can get into a rhythm, I would imagine that kind of goes back to part of your reasoning, correct?
It does. I think that, you know, every one of our section games is going to be a dogfight. So, you know, we could come out on either end. We could run the next 3. I could lose the next 3. You know, when they're 1-point games and overtime games and 3-point games, the way they usually are, even when you look at the scores of the other teams who played each other, you know, it's kind of just buckle up and get ready because that's the type of game it's going to be. So because we are going to be in slugfest like that, yeah, we could easily do some damage if we keep hanging on at the end of these games and playing defense the way we are. But you know, I'm not naive to know that, you know, we turn the ball over at the wrong time, we're going to be in trouble. You know what I mean? So that's how we're looking at it. But yeah, I absolutely believe that this group of seniors will work themselves into a position to, you know, to be at least have a voice in this whole thing when it's over. We will see.
Last thing I have, I asked you probably what was the most favorite question out of anybody we had on over the summer, as far as who would you have in your coach's starting 5 if you had to play? And I think I got on that. So, which is exactly what I wanted. So I'm wondering, are you coming off your picks? Are you subbing somebody into that starting 5? Or are you riding with who you said back in?
Oh, I'm sticking with my guys. I'm sticking with my guys so far. I'm sticking with my guys. I do agree with you that we would get the snot kicked out of us by the assistant coach team, but I'm still sticking with my guys.
Very good.
Well,
very good.
The assistants are always younger. I mean,
Yeah.
They're assistants because they can play. You need a good practice player too. You know, they got to practice so they get old enough to say, you know what, I'm just going to do the X's and O's stuff. So anyway, hey Coach, we're gonna continue our chat. You're more than welcome to hang around. Up to you, buddy. What do you want to do?
I mean, if I mute I can just watch you guys in. Is that how this works? Or can I? What's the best thing to do?
No, you can just hang here. Just don't kick yourself out of the thing. And Andy and I go back and forth. And I'm sure if you're still there, we'll probably bring you back into the conversation because 3's better than 2.
Absolutely, I would love to sit here and listen.
All right, man. All right, let's start with Andy. Hey, Andy. We got snow. We got 6 games, 6 weeks, six days on the schedule. So I know a lot of the ADs are pushed and. It's gonna be a wild finish here, I think. I mean, we only got 4 weeks left. So your talk with Coach, it's like their team's gonna be playing 4 nights a week to get their games in.
Right. And I think I saw the news today that our buddy Reinhardt said from his talk, I guess with Commissioner Kraft and everything, who's overseeing the hoops committee, but it looks like crossovers are just going to be gravy. Like they're not going to be any sort of, there's not going to be any merit in the standings, which I don't know.
I put that on my
take that or leave
column today. I put it on my column today. So all that stuff that Mr. Reinhardt has, we have it on our column today. So if anybody wants to check it out, It's from, as you say, the horse's mouth. It's all in there. They said that section games only. And then they said, here's what their thinking was, I think. It's like, as we have some cancellations from COVID or some snow issues, you got to focus on getting your section games in first.
Right.
And that's what's going to determine the section champ, I think. Now, again, I haven't looked ahead too much. I'm a little bit like Coach, but it doesn't matter to me whether I'm in a districts or not. You know, it's just like, okay, what do we got this week? What's going on? And then, you know, it'll fall out. It'll fall. I always thought as a coach, if you're in a good section, you go 500, you're probably going to get into districts. And then this year, you and I talked, Andy, about the districts being in the home higher seeds court, which I don't know right now if that's an advantage or not. I mean, what's your thoughts, Andy, on home court advantage with less fans in? And then we'll ask Coach Muss what he thinks about that.
I think from my perspective, it's not going to be a huge deal if you're going to have teams that are matching up against one another that they're used to. So I think, like, for example, Calico and Central would play each other if districts started right now. So no great learning curve, because that game is literally going to happen anyway. If it were to happen in districts, like, Central would literally be going over there. I think what is going to be the bigger question is if you have, like, the other year, just for example, off the top of my head, Big Spring going to LS. Like, that's not exactly an easy trip to make, especially if you've never been there before. So, I mean, just kind of that mental hurdle of, where's the locker room at this place? What are the rims like? Is it a big gym? Is it a small gym? I mean, just all that sort of unknown. But I don't know. I don't think it's that big of a deal. That might be the only case where it kind of lends itself to some, you know, wild card. I don't think it's that big of a deal. I really don't. But I don't know. That's just my perspective. And yeah, to go back to what you were saying about the crossover games, I mean, you want to get the most important games rescheduled if you can. And yes, if everything else happens, that's just gravy. So yeah, I understand the rationale, but and I know I'm in the minority here, but I've always loved crossovers. Even when I was a player, I loved them. And I know that's sacrilegious to say, really, but it's, hopefully we get some. I know we had one the other night, and that lived up to it with Township knocking off Lebanon. Yeah. So I know a 1-game sample size, but those games are fun. I know a lot of coaches don't really like them, and some fans don't really even like them, but I do. And hopefully we get as many of them in as we can, whether they count for real or not. So
let's go to Coach Muss. All right, Coach, you're still with us. What's your thoughts? What's your thoughts on the home school? Is there advantage in the districts? I mean, I know if I was playing at your place, it'd be like, man, this place is a cavern in here. It's like, I don't know how good the shots are, but if I had a guy like Zentner in there dunking it, it wouldn't matter to me. 10 foot's 10 foot.
Yeah, no, I kind of agree with Andy, though. It depends on who your matchup is. If it's, if you get matched up with Central or Calico, some in your section, well, then they know your gym anyways. But if we're playing the York schools, that are coming up this way, we got to go down there, then yeah, I think there's home court advantage just in the feel of your court, your rims, all of that. Certainly without fans there, not without student sections, that does level the playing field a little bit for the away team. But there's always the advantage of just, being at home, going up to your gym and being the home team for districts versus the team coming in by bus, getting ready to play. But besides that, I don't think it's that big of a factor, especially with no fans this year.
Yeah, I know in the districts, when we do the districts, if we have, let's say, LS and Central playing each other, we're going to have LL refs. I always liked it as a coach to get different refs when we're playing different teams, just because nobody's familiar with the style and teams have to adjust on the fly. I always thought that was a pretty cool thing about the districts, that you're not familiar with the guys, you can't talk to them, and it's like sometimes they come in with a like one of these things on their shoulder. It's like, sit down, coach. It's like, well, it's like, it's like, okay, if I need to, I'll do that. So that's a consideration. I don't know. Let's I'm thinking what Andy said about the crossovers. I mean, Lebanon High right now has got to like it. There's no crossovers that are going to count. I mean, they got to love that, Andy. I mean, seriously.
Right. You think?
Well, yeah. I mean, for them in Warwick, it's going to be a 2-game.
Right.
It's going to be a 2-game tournament, really.
Exactly.
Well,
Right.
but the thing that the LL did well this year is there's not going to be, let's just say Warwick and Lebanon again. Let's say they split, they're tied at, I don't know, 4-1 or 5-1, whatever their record is in the section. So there's no playoff for first place this year. So they're going to go head to head first, and then district rating points second. Now, the district rating points comes in a little bit because you don't have the opportunity to schedule non-league like you used to. Like some teams, let's say McCaskey would always be playing, they're playing Reading, they're playing some big time schools, and they're probably getting
Yes.
more points. Now, as it stands, a lot of these schools didn't have much of a non-league, so there's not a way to get more wins, therefore boost your overall record. But, we are where we're at. But the head-to-head I like, and the District 3 I like, but it's going to be interesting for a lot of these teams where we're at. Section 1, we got Hempfield and McCaskey, and the losses that I looked at, Hempfield, McCaskey, and even Cedar Crest, all the losses are in Section 1. So, the crossover games aren't going to affect. I think the crossover games will affect maybe Section 2, maybe Section 3. I don't know, Section 4. That might be a done deal. I hate to say that so early in the year, but that team down there, the purple and gold are getting it done. What do you think, Andy?
They're pretty good. Yeah, they're pretty good. Yeah. Hey, I wanted to ask you, Dell, a question. I know you usually throw it over to me right when we start and ask, what we saw and what we thought. So I'm actually going to turn the tables this week, because this was a rarity where you actually got out more than I did. And I know one of the games you saw was McCaskey and Township. And I know after, talking to you after the game, that McCaskey really opened your eyes with what you saw, because you and I had not seen them up until you went down there on whatever night it was, Tuesday or Wednesday. So talk about that Section 1 Donnybrook, because that's exactly what it sounded like. And then also what you saw out of the Red Tornado that really made you feel that, hey, they're going to be a force to be reckoned with here down the stretch.
Well, McCaskey is not allowing any fans in their gym. That's number one. So the atmosphere was interesting because they do have their cheerleaders, and it was like when I coached junior high, it was like coaching a junior high game, because the JVs were behind both teams and they're both clapping and stomping, and then cheerleaders are doing the stomp the whole time. So there was some atmosphere there, which I found very interesting on quote unquote an empty gym. In fact, it was probably one of the louder gyms I've been to during that game. Now, to go back to your question on McCaskey, I think they didn't have much practice time early. I could be wrong, but I don't think they practiced a lot before all this started. So I think they're getting a little bit better there. The kid that impressed me was Hassan Williams, and he just had one of those games where you just look at him and you're like, oh my gosh, what's going on? He seemed to be the fastest kid on the floor. He handled well. He played good defense, and he popped some threes. But what really impressed me about his game was the fact that he had pull-up jumpers, like, one dribble, ball fake, one dribble and shot, and he could hit that 15, 17 footer. And a lot of the, we can talk to coach about that, but if you got a kid that can do that on your team, that's pretty special. I think of Bohannon up at Elko. He's got that in his game as well. So back to McCaskey, I was impressed with their speed. They're not overly big, although they do have a couple big guys that contributed. They just the Bird kid. If you remember him from last year, he was a younger guy. Well, he's a little older and he's a little stronger, and he didn't score a lot of points, but he kind of controlled the game, which is always cool to see a guard run the game. Now Township got up early, and then for whatever reason, I don't know what Coach Freddie told them at halftime, but they came out. They did like one of those 10-0 blitzes.
Yeah.
And then Township called a timeout, and then they went on another blitz. And basically, Township was playing from behind. Township got close at the end. I mean, they did some really nice things. They ran some really good patterns. I read today in a tweet from Coach Johns that it was the first time he had 5 kids pop a 3 in a game. So, it was kind of like Township's patterns and 3-point shooting against some of McCaskey's speed and defense. So I was impressed. I need to see him again. You just never know. So let's go back to Coach. Coach, have you had very many players, and you can be honest here, that have that game where they take a dribble and pull up and shot, and they have the 3-point shot to go with it?
Yeah, Keontae Nunn was that way. Tay was able to pull. He was probably the best we've ever had, besides, Curtis Waltman way back in the day. But for me coaching, Tay was the by far the best kid off the dribble with a pull-up jump shot. And then Tay could shoot the 3 if he wanted to, but he was more interested in breaking you down and pulling his jump shot on you. So, and then that ability, like you had said, it makes it easy to coach because he makes you look good with his ability to do that.
Yeah, I was a college recruiter at E-Town for 3 years, and I swear if I saw a kid do that at the high school level, and I know every high school coach works on it. I know that. I mean, it's like pump fake, dribble, shot. Everybody works on it probably every day in practice, and then you get to a game and it's like, okay, where did that stuff go? It's like working on a bank shot. I don't know, Coach. Do you guys work on a 15 to 10-foot bank shot from your wings or your guards?
We don't. No, we do more mic and drill around the rim just to finish around the rim because we struggle with that sometimes, like 16 for 60, like I said the other day. So we just start there. Hopefully I'll be able to graduate back to 10 or 15 foot like Timmy Duncan. But yeah, not right now, no.
Oh, okay. Because I don't know how many games I've seen. Going back to Andy's point, I saw a doubleheader this week, Andy. That was pretty cool. Monday night, I saw the early game with Catholic and Northern Lebanon, and I went over and saw LS play. I think they played Central. So yeah, there was a lot. Oh boy, talk about points. Woo. they were just shooting it all over. Oh mercy, I just couldn't keep up with it. I really couldn't. It was pretty wild. So
hey,
yeah.
Muss, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
So you're joining on with us here, and we're talking about like McCaskey and Township and teams that you have no connection to this year. I'm wondering, as a coach, I mean, I know you're hyper focused on what's Solanco doing, what is LS doing, Calico, things like that, but how much do your eyes just kind of veer off whenever you have time? Like, oh wow, like Township beat Lebanon the other night, or just things that, with teams you don't really have, they're not on your schedule. They may not be, depending on what you have in leagues. I'm just curious from a coach's perspective, how do you, is it true, like example, when you had Tay and you were, going to states and going to leagues, did you do that more often than possibly this year? How exactly does that work for a coach within the season at looking at other sections that you don't interact with?
I'm always interested in how the other sections are doing. The one thing about this year that has been great is the live stream. I watched the Lebanon Township game just because it was on live stream. I was home that night, so I am a bigger fan of LO basketball this year because I've seen more games sitting on my couch on YouTube than I ever have. I'm actually hoping that's something that doesn't go away for, moms and dads who work and can't watch their kids because it is such an easy thing now because all these games are live streamed. So that just makes me a bigger fan of the yellow basketball. I love watching. I think I watched Octorara Northern Lebanon the other night. So, if they're on and I'm around, I'm clicking and watching.
Very cool. Very cool.
Well, we had arrangements to be at Spot for a couple of live stream games in the beginning of the year, and then AD Mark writes me, says, Dell, sorry dude, but you're not coming in. So we had to drop you this year, Coach, but daggone it, we're going to get you on next year. I guarantee we'll be there.
Or tell you what, if because we are going to the big gym and maybe your schedule something opens up later down the road, just contact Mark again. I'm sure he'd be all ears now because now I can put you in the corner and you wouldn't be near anybody over there.
We don't have it. We like being in the corner. We just got to get the internet to get the heck out of there. It's unbelievable. I get to a gym and it's like sometimes the hotspot works, sometimes the school's Wi-Fi works, sometimes my cell phone works. We did the game of Calico through my cell phone. So that's our biggest issue. But I think we got it to the point now where even if the game doesn't go out, we can record it and then we'll put it on our YouTube page a little bit later on. So
okay.
That being said, like maybe you can help me here. So every school is live streaming and through whatever Huddle. I know Township uses Huddle. A lot of teams.
We have Huddle Focus. Yep, it's fantastic. Yep.
Yeah, a lot of teams are doing the YouTube thing through the cell phone cameras. Some are doing Facebook. I think Penn Manor does Facebook. But our views, we've got now 5 games so far. We got 6 more scheduled. And our views are going from like 200 to 1,200. Now, yeah, last year, we started out really low. We started out 100, 200, and then we went up to 500. And then most of the games towards the end of the year, we were 700,000, something like that. It kind of depends on the school. The bigger the school, the more fans. But I'm thinking because of what you just said, you're watching these games and you're used to finding them on, Lebanon's live stream or Northern Lebanon's live stream. Do you think that's affecting viewership on my end?
I guess it could. I mean, if you guys are there, I would much rather watch through you guys just because I enjoy that. But that's a great question. I don't know. I hope that it wouldn't, but I'm sure people are going to go right to the schools first. Because the ADs are sending those links out to us to get to the parents. So you know what I mean. Maybe if you had a way to say, well, hey, yes, we're at the Garden Spot, Solanco game tonight. Yes, Garden Spot has the link, but here's also the LL link for the game. And if you included that with my informational packet that went to the parents for that game that night, because you were going to be there, that'd be something we would certainly include to help your viewership then stay up.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure if somebody had the ability just to sit and watch it, when I say muted with with nothing on versus having you guys, I'd much rather listen to you guys talk through a game.
Yeah, our guys they're pretty special to watch.
Absolutely.
They're very good. They're how do I say, they're professional at what they do, but I know that they're very interested in high school basketball. It's just not quite a job. And Coach Goodling, I can get some stuff from him if I want some history. I go from him. So Andy, this week we got 4 or 5 games. Monday will be a wipeout, and the teams can't schedule. Usually they can't schedule for what's already scheduled, but maybe this year they can bump out a section, a crossover game for a section game. I don't know. We'll have to see. We'll try to keep up with it. I know you sent me something early today, Andy, and I was going to update it, but I'm not, you know what? There's no sense of me updating until tomorrow. Probably everything will be wiped out, and we'll go from there. Let's go back to Coach. Mask. Have your kids gotten special masks, or do they just try different masks, or how are you guys doing with that?
Yeah, I mean, we started the year. We had a mask that the school bought us. The kids didn't particularly like them. We happened to be at a school that wasn't all that hard on enforcing it, but we did our best. We played the next day, and we were on now live television. We had to be reminded during the game to get them up, so we did. So then the kids just didn't like the ones we provided, so we went, okay, well then maybe use your own. But then we were just looking because, listen, you can't watch the NBA and see how are those guys doing it because they don't wear masks. You can't watch major college basketball and see, well, how are those kids doing it because they don't wear masks. So there was nowhere to learn from. These 16, 14-year-old kids were learning for the first time with us on what to do with these things. So we were, quickly trying to find. So we actually we're watching TV. We see Nick Saban on TV or Bill Self, and they have this Schema 97 mask on. We're like, well, look at that thing. It doesn't look like they're sucking it in when they're talking. And so we ordered 8 of them. We got them in, and we gave them to our top 8 players, and we wore them. And the kids, again, there's no positive with it. The kids don't like wearing them, but those type of masks were a very positive experience for our kids. So we ordered 20 more. Nice. And ever since we've gotten that mask in, we've had no issue at all. Now mask gets knocked down, or down at Lebanon, we had a mask get tore off, and Gary Rinch was very good. We kind of stopped the game. We figured it out, and everyone's very professional about it, and we try to help each other with it because it is a new thing. But I think at least after this first couple of weeks, I think we did solve this mask issue for our team. And I've talked to other coaches about it. I said, listen, guys, we bought this mask, and our kids, they're light. They still have the double layer of protection on them, but they're a nice mask to wear if you're going to be, you know, exerting the level you're exerting on the basketball floor. So that side of it has been positive for us. It just took us a little bit to learn, you know, just like anything brand new like that would have been. But our kids have responded to that, and we're just sharing our feedback from that particular mask to other teams because we're trying to help everybody out. We're all in it together.
Okay, I was on a podcast this week with Gordy Jones and Mike Gross on their I think it's called Podbean, but we put a link on it up on my website. So the question came up, and I thought, well, maybe we'll ask some coaches here. Everybody knows that you're on the camera, okay?
Right.
So not that you're loud, but I know where I sit in that spot, Jim. I can hear you across the gym when the cheerleaders and the stands are there. So has there been any consideration knowing that maybe somebody can hear you a little bit better because there's nobody in the gym, a la parents or ADs, that you guys are aware of that?
I'm absolutely aware of that. Unfortunately for me, I kind of wear my heart on my sleeve, and I just coach. So, but yeah, you're absolutely aware of that. And then I'll watch the replay of the game. I'm like, oh my gosh, is that what I sound like? Oh my gosh. But it's more just encouraging for our kids, trying to be positive with them. But yeah, you do notice that. And even the comments down the bench and down the referees notice it more. You know what I mean? But again, we're joking with them, trying to talk with them, and they're trying to do their best. So I just think if everyone has their mind and heart in the right place, it's going to work.
Nice. Andy, what else you got, buddy?
No, I mean, it's another good week that we had. I think we had some good games. I was just kind of glancing at the schedule for this week a little bit. I mean, we got some big ones coming up if they happen. I know LS is going to be looking for revenge when Cocalico comes to town, I guess on Tuesday or Wednesday. So that'll be a big game as far as Section 3 that Coach Muss is situated in as far as that race goes. The game I really wanted to see, based on what you said about McCaskey, was Creston McCaskey. But, of course, that didn't happen this week. And I'm pretty sure that the back end game, if everything goes off, is this Friday, I think. So, I mean, that'll be a fun one to check out. So I guess I wanted to ask your thoughts. I know we asked Coach Muss already, but if we do go to section champs only, what's your thoughts on it? Because I have my own, but I'll let you start off if that is in fact the direction we are going to go, which it certainly sounds that way.
Well, the LL, as Coach Muss said, the LL tournament, for whatever reason, for history reasons, whatever it is, it seems like the biggest deal around. And I think that's because out of all our sections, I think, like, let's say Lancaster Catholic in Section 4, well, you know what? They've been league champs before. They're pretty good. Columbia sometimes in Section 5, or even Mennonite, as we covered a couple years ago. I mean, they always seem to crank out a good product. So it's not like Reading High playing Daniel Boone in the first round of the Berks, and it's going to be a 40-point game before you even step in the gym. So I think some of that, the history of the LL, for whatever reason, it's just bigger. It just seems bigger. It seems bigger than York. It seems bigger than Berks. Mid-Penn, they don't care about it at all. So it's something. Now this year, Andy, you and I are both surprised at the season's going forward. And every week I'm just happy that we can get out to games, and even when we have some cancellations and some weird things that happen, I'm happy that we can get out there. I'm sure the kids are happy. I'm sure the coaches are happy. I'm watching NBA. Last year, I'm like, well, what can we do? The NBA put on their thing, but NCAA was shot. So, I'm kind of happy that we're doing some things. Now, section champs, it's going to be good. So this year's kind of anomaly. So I'm not worried about this year as far as like, okay, this is not good or this is not bad. And it's going to make every game very important, especially in the section. Like when let's say Hempfield and McCaskey are like, one loss going into that last game when they play. How important is that game? Because it's going to be head to head, and Hempfield's already beaten McCaskey once. So if they beat them twice, it probably doesn't matter the rest of the games if they can control destination, So I think it's going to make for interesting down the stretch here. I think I don't know. I think it's going to be pretty good. Now, what's going to be weird, totally weird, is the Saturday at Township when we do the finals.
Right.
That's going to be stranger than a little bit. You know, I let it go in my column, and I think we talked about it on our live stream the other day, but we're going to be there live streaming if the games go forward. So I'm looking forward to that. And if you have 100 people in the stands and LA Hoops is putting the game on for free, I know that's going to be it's going to be a big thing for us. I'm going to have to hire some more guys and just make sure that it goes off like beautiful, because it's important to us for sure, because that's what we cover. It's important to the league because they want a good product out there. So I'm okay with it this year. I really am. I think next year when they go, Coach, is it next year they go into 4? Is it 2 years?
I believe it's 2 years.
Okay. So in 2 years when they go to 4, they're going to have an 8-team tournament. We won't have to play in game, and you know it'll kind of be back to where it was in the past. So I'm good with it, Andy. I really am. The districts start the week after that, and in my column again, sharing what Zach said, is there's some cutoffs for the district. So there's not going to be a lot of manipulation of schedules at the end. You know, you can't pick on. I know I did this once as a coach, pick up a game like the Wednesday before the cutoff to get into the district. And we did that once, and they're not allowing that this year. There's a cutoff date. You can play after the cutoff date if it's scheduled, but you have to have it scheduled by February 13th, and that's 2 weeks away. So, you know, I think the district has adjusted a little bit to what went on in football this year, and they don't want to see it happening in basketball. And, you know, that's pretty good. And I'm a little bit surprised that District 3 is going to a full tournament. That surprised me.
There's certain things out of this year that I think you're right. They're both good and bad. I like the fact, and you can never get away with it because you're doing champs only out of districts in the states, and you need that fat state tournament field for, you know, the 6th seed, the whatever seed. But I like the single elimination theory. I mean, I like that. I mean, I know, again, that would never be able to be adjusted, but like in 5A, like that losers bracket, I can't stand that, because you can lose your first game, and if you win your next, I mean, yeah, it's a gargantuan ask to win whatever it is, like your next 5 to get into that last seed. But it's like, I don't know. I'm not wild on that. As far as the LL thing with champs only, again, you're right. Everything you said is correct in the sense that nobody does it like we do it. I mean, for whatever reason, this conference has a stranglehold on conference tournaments, because you're right. The Mid-Penn could care less. They're worried about the next week and the weeks beyond that, and how are they going to, you know, make it back to Hershey maybe 1 or 2 more times. You know, Berks is Reading and Mifflin and Wilson every year, so no real excitement there. And York is Central York and somebody. Like, that's the way that always works. But yeah, for us, it's always different. And yeah, I mean, you would have preferred to have the 10 teams just because it makes things more attractive, where, you know, for example, like if Catholic is far and away out in front in Section 4, well, then Section 4 is over and done with. I mean, and it used to be fun to have, like, let's say Cacalico and Elko duke it out on that last night to get the 2nd seed into the tournament. So again, it's this year. You're going to have to make concessions. I totally understand it. At least, yes, we are going forward in some form or fashion, and I can appreciate that. I guess the one thing, and this is splitting hairs, that I'm not crazy about is if it is 4 versus 5 in the play-in game. Like, I get the rationale in the sense that if you were to take an average Section 4 team and an average Section 5 team and put them against somebody in Section 1, yeah, 80-90% of the time, they don't stand a prayer. And I get that. But let's just think about this. So Section 4 is probably going to be Catholic, all right? And Columbia, depending on how they finish, I might slide them up in my, you know, power ratings too. But for me, Catholic's not even 3 and 2 anymore. They're 1A behind Warwick. So, you know, again, are they better than Warwick? Probably not, but it's close. What about Lebanon if that series splits? They're probably a little bit better than Lebanon, but it's close. You know, Section 3, LS maybe. Spot is, again, they have a whole lot of meat left on their bone as far as the year goes. They're for sure, Catholic is for sure better than whoever comes out of Section 1. I mean, that's this year's just nuts. I don't know what's going on there, but it is just weird. And again, I get the rationale, but like Catholic is going to have to go the entire way through. And the only way you could rectify that is if you do like a committee or something like that, which would never fly. But that's just my thinking of it's like, wow, like Catholic is one of the best teams going, and you're making them play in to the field, which again, I get it. It's just, that's one of those interesting quirks that comes with it, I guess. So that's my only.
Let's just double back on that a little bit. So everybody, Coach Muss included, is going to be playing 3 games and 4 games in a week. So you get to the end there, and if you're good enough, I mean, let's say, and Mennonite's only 1 game back of Columbia, so they got to play again. You know, that could be a tough game for Columbia and kind of do that tiebreaker thing. So the thing is, I think teams are used to that, number one, and I don't care who you're coaching. You want to be in that league championship, you want to be there. So I don't think we'll find any complaints from Columbia coach or any complaints from Catholic if those two are the teams that are playing for that first game. Plus, Andy, we get to live stream the game. So how good is that? I mean, you know, it's a great thing. And, oh, by the way, both of those teams are in the same classification for District 3. And both of them, I think right now, I checked it today. I usually don't check, and I'm like Coach Muss. I don't check it till it gets down there. But I think those teams are like 1 and 2 in seeding right now. So, you know, we could see, you know, a preview of a District 3 championship game there. Now, one other thing that you said that kind of piqued me a little bit. So you were talking about, okay, so the battle for second place and getting in the tournament. Well, okay, but when those 2 teams play this year, it's going to be a battle to get into District 3 and getting another seed to get a home game, I think. I mean, Coach, what do you think of that? I mean, I know you don't look at the districts, I know, but you know what? I'll bet you will be the last week of the thing and say, you know what? We're on the cutoff and we got to win 1 game. And if we win 1 game, we're the 8th seed, and 7th seed, we get a home game. And, you know, I don't know. What do you think?
No, I definitely will as we get down towards there. You know, hopefully I'm interested in looking at it in the next 2 weeks. I'm hoping so.
Never.
I could go where I don't care at all. But you know, yeah, I'm hoping so. And then yes, you always look at, are we going to be home, away, where we're going, who we potentially. I absolutely, that all matters. You know, we actually got a call the other day from Matt Johns of Township. They want to pick up a game with us too. So, you know, we're like, yes, you know, let's just get our kids. Again, it's more of, let's let our kids play as much as they can, because you have no idea what can happen. That's, like Andy said, in this type of year, that's what the number one, you know, goal is to get our kids to play. Now, if we can win and then get into a district playoff, and well, of course, I'm interested in where we're aligning and all that stuff. Sure.
I was just teasing you, Coach. I know you're interested, and I know. You know, when I was coach, I coached for 14 years in the LL, 2 different teams, but. Some of the coaches, I don't know, Andy, I don't know how to say this, but some of them, it was that LL or bust mentality. But other coaches are like, you know what? It's like, I got a 5-15 team, but I want to win that next game for next year. And the competitive spirit shows in the teams and the coaches. So I think personally, I think every game is important. And even if you're struggling, you know, a win at the end of the year, or, you know, something to look forward to. A little bit different than football. Football, we have, you know, you lose, you got to deal with it for a week. In basketball, we lose, we got to deal with it for 2 days, and hopefully we can, you know, push the loss behind us. Or if it's a win, it's like, hey, you know, like Coach said, we got to play Manheim Central. That's what we got to focus on, you know. And I know these coaches are nuts, Andy. They're all crazy. So they'll go home, they'll watch their game film that night, and they've already watched the game film of the teams that they're going to play. And some of them crazy idiots are going to watch that game film of the team they played that night to go to the next night. And I think they're crazy, but you know, that's the way of the world right now. How about it, Coach? Is that true or not?
That's my night. You just you just summed it up.
Now, hey, I got to say, if you could take what's in your head, stick it into your player's head and say, look, you know, this is what we're seeing. And it's like, you know, you don't want to overthink those guys, because I've seen it. It's like coaches hollering this and they're looking at this, and the next thing a guy slips behind him, gets a layup, and you're like, what the heck? I told you he was coming. And it's like, yeah, well, I was listening to you, coach. I wasn't watching the guy get the layup underneath me. All right, man. We've been on for an hour, so let's wrap it up. Coach Musselman, thank you so much. I mean, big win, big week for you, and you know, coming forward to big every week. 3 weeks to go. It's all good. I wish you well.
Thank you.
I wish you well on your new floor, and Andy and I talked about covering one of those games quickly on your new floor. So we will get in there, live stream. I mean, you know, I'll tell you what, coach, if you make the LL tournament, we'll put you on that game. Okay. So
right. Hey, I would, yes. Okay.
There's your incentive. There's your incentive.
Homework now, buddy. You got some goals. You can post that in the bulletin board and say that daggone LO Hoops said they're going to live stream our game, so we better play well down the stretch here.
That's right. Let me get off this. I can go watch some more film now.
Attaboy. All right. Good night, Andy. Good night, coach. Thank you so much.
Coach. Keep up the great work. Thanks, Muss.
Thank you. See you, Andy. See you, buddy.
Later.